In this video, we're going to discuss a B1 tourist for business, specifically for missionary work. Now, if you need to come to the United States to do some type of missionary work, and you're not going to the United States to work in a United States religious organization, which normally you would need an R1 visa, the B1 business visitor's visa is usually the proper visa. This visa permits entry into the United States for a period of time necessary to conclude your activity. However, those people granted a B1 missionary visa usually receive a one-year initial stay, and this can be renewed for periods of 1 year at a time. In general, the B1 non-immigrant visa category covers visitors for business, that's B1, and for pleasure, B2. And by far, the vast majority of visitors who enter the United States each year do so as non-immigrant visas in the B visa category. Now, this video is intended for those wishing to come into the United States to do B1 missionary work. Now, a B1 missionary cannot be involved in employment in the United States and cannot undertake an academic study program. In other words, they cannot receive any money from a U.S. company while they're here. And in this video, we're going to discuss the legitimate activities that can be conducted in the B1 missionary visa category and the procedure for obtaining the entry into the United States in this category. Now, what are the conditions that you have to abide by if you're granted this B1 missionary visa? Well, even before a B1 visa is approved, the consular official has to determine whether or not the activity contemplated by the visitor falls within those allowed under the B1 category. All consular posts have been provided by the State Department a detailed listing of approved activities, and if there are any questions or concerns, the consular official must look to the Department of State for guidance. There are a few unclear areas. However, in most cases, the consular official resolves these concerns without the need to contact the State Department. Now, you would have to prove the non-immigrant intent of a B1 missionary, and you do that by showing to the consulate that there will be no gainful employment. The most important condition in the B category is the visitor cannot engage in gainful employment that is labor for hire. Now, to establish non-immigrant intent, you have to do the following and establish this to the consulate: that the visitor is entering the United States for a limited duration, that the visitor intends to depart the United States at the expiration of his or her stay, and while in the United States, the visitor maintains a foreign residence, which he or she has no intention of abandoning. The visitor has adequate financial arrangements to come to the United States, visit, and depart when it's time to depart. Now, the visitor will engage solely in legitimate activities relating to the religious activities that he's supposed to follow in the United States. Now, the question is, what are the permissible activities of a B1 missionary visa holder? First of all, there is missionary work. If you're performing missionary work on behalf of a religious denomination, you may be entitled for a B1 visa or a visa fee travel if you under the visa waiver program for certain countries. However, if you're qualified, you will receive no salary or remuneration from the United States or other than allowances for reimbursement for expenses incidental to your stay, like room and board, food, travel expenses. Now, the work that you are performing in the United States will not be involved in the selling of articles or the solicitation or acceptance of donations. When applying for a visa or entering the United States, you should furnish a letter from your U.S. sponsor explaining in detail the nature of your visit. You could also be coming to the United States for preaching. If you'll be preaching in the United States for a temporary period or will be what's called exchanging pulpits with your U.S. counterpart, you may be eligible for the B1 visa, provided that you continue to be reimbursed by your church in your own country, and you will receive no salary from a host church in the United States. Now, when you apply for this visa entry into the United States, you should, as we mentioned before, furnish a letter from your U.S. sponsor explaining in great detail the nature of your visit. You could also be coming in just to do voluntary service in certain programs. Now, participants in voluntary service programs sponsored by a religious or nonprofit charitable organization which specifically furthers a religious or charitable cause or benefits the poor, the ill, or the needy may be eligible for that B1 missionary visa, provided, of course, that you qualify in all other respects. And that would be, in this particular section, that the work to be performed is traditionally done by volunteer charity workers, and that the individual will receive no salary or remuneration from the U.S. source other than the allowance or reimbursement of expenses incidental to the stay, which is usually like room and board and food and travel expenses. And the individual will not engage in selling any article or solicitation for donations. Now, if you need to apply for a tourist visa, missionary tourist visa, you can visit the link below, and you'll find not only the forms necessary, and you will find also a lot more information on this particular visa, and also how it relates to the R visa, the religious visa, and also how it relates to the special immigrant category visa, which is a permanent green card for a religious worker. Additionally, you can go to the site that we link you to and make an appointment right on the internet for your interview at the U.S. consulate.